Yeah, there's nothing the police could do about it. And that was something that I had learned early on as well, that a lot of times you had to have permits for like a rally or a march or things like that. But this was another lesson, was this was a walking picket. You could form a walking picket anywhere and you could not be arrested. So as long as you kept moving, like if you stood sedentary in front of a place and you're just standing there, maybe you could get in trouble because you're not moving. But if you're walking, if you're moving, even if it's in circles, that's a walking picket. So we learned a lot of the laws and how, what we could do and what we couldn't do. The organization that I was a part of was what you would constitute an above ground organization, so it had to fall within the laws of the US. Now, I say that again with a caveat. There was a lot of things that weren't legal that went on as well, but uh, the organization itself was above ground. It was a legal organization in the country.
What other tools did your group use to help recruit people? Did they write leaflets? Did they film videos? What other tools did they use to try and recruit people?
So over the years, it was basically anything and everything you can imagine. In the early years, like when I got involved, was back in the early '90s. Leaflets, a lot of the old school type of things. Sometimes newspapers. Some groups had newspapers, so we would get newspapers in bulk and pass out the newspapers. A lot of old school techniques back then. Later on, it evolved. Um, Starting back then, actually, and probably before I got involved, there was a lot of bands that were promoting the music. So that was something that I didn't know about when I first joined, and I met up with Skinhead Band and started learning about how people were putting music to this stuff. And propaganda wise, someone might watch a speech once or twice, maybe a couple times, or read a book once, but you might listen to a favorite song over and over and over again. So propaganda wise, this was very effective, the music, as far as bringing people in. Later on, it became, getting involved in making video games, racist video games, you name it. The propaganda reach changed. In the '90s, it was one thing, but the internet was fairly new. So the groups under my leadership early on, we had one of the first websites, not the first, but early on, it was one of the first organizations that had websites up, and started learning how to use that phone hotlines to recruit, so people could call in and get a hold of us, join up, and later on producing podcasts and radio shows and things of that nature.
I'm just listening to you now, and obviously, like I said before, I read the first chapter. And one thing that's coming across is that group, whatever anyone thinks of it, it seems very organized in terms of the law, in terms of, well, one, was it organized? And two, did you have weapons as well? Was it that one of the things that you had?
Well, when I first joined, it was basically there in Minnesota and in a couple other states. It was a pretty small organization, but so learning as I went, I trained under the guy that had run the organization. I learned a lot from him within a couple years, but within a couple years, I was appointed to run the group. So I had to learn a lot of things, like, sort of like a trial by fire. I had to make mistakes and things of that nature, but I implemented handbooks and a structure in the organization, basically set it up like a military type structure with ranks and positions. It wasn't a democracy, so people were appointed. They weren't voted into positions or anything like that. And I set up structure as far as rules, regulations, what you can and can't do, and that evolved over the years. And but yes, it was highly structured. Not at first, it wasn't, but it became highly structured. And over the years, it evolved to, and this surprises a lot of people, that it was a state nonprofit. Now, it wasn't a federal or national nonprofit, because um, what I found out when trying to register for that is, if you discriminate based on race or anything like that, you can't have a federal nonprofit. Means you don't have tax exempt status and things of that nature. But it was set up as a state nonprofit, with a board of directors and everything like that. So that surprises a lot of people, because when they think of these type of groups, they automatically assume, this is just a bunch of rednecks or hillbillies out in the woods, coming up with this club, and it was not like that.